Hey, what's up? It's Mykill Metal, and this is the Space Shuttle Enterprise, and I'm going to be sending another part up to the space station. And we get these in here. Release the clamps, and liftoff. This one's a bit more wobbly than it usually is. You can see it kind of oscillating back and forth right there. But once I get high enough, it goes away. And the SRBs don't clip into the wings, so I'm good. I should be able to make it up to orbit. And when we get final shutdown, we've got the orbit up at 175-ish. I'm going to flip around and disconnect from the tank and use the RCS to thrust away. Activate the OMS engines. And after a few maneuvers, I bring it in close to the space station. And I'm going to use the OMS engines to try to bring the velocity as close as I can to zero. But I still have to tweak the OMS engines because they're a little off-center still. And they're burning a little bit low. So I'm going to get zeroed out and then flip it north and south so I can disconnect this and move it out of the cargo bay, trying not to collide with it. And once I get clear, I'm going to set it as the target and use the RCS to flip around and move into position so I can actually dock with the top of it. This was an extremely slow maneuver. The video is sped up like 4 times normal speed, so you can tell how long this probably took. It was ridiculously long. Just kind of line this up using the alignment indicator and bring it in nice and slow. And we're docked. Nice. So I'm going to bring this in up over the top of the station and get it aligned so that the solar panels will go the opposite way that the docking arms on the bottom of it face. Go perpendicular to those. And once I was done with that, I brought it in for a landing. And this is a really quiet part of the landing. I wish there was a little bit more ambient noise. Drop the gear. Try to straighten out just enough for touchdown. And apply the brakes. Sweet. And this, I think, is the shuttle Andromeda. And it'll be bringing up the arms that will be holding the solar panels. This is a little bit more of a stable launch than the last one. It doesn't twist around as much. It gets a little bit right there. It's alright. Drop the SRBs. And they didn't clip the wings, so we should be good to go to orbit. And we got shut down. Flip around, disconnect, and use the RCS to thrust away. And I skipped the first arm and just brought it in when I was attaching the second one. The one thing I had to make sure was that the rudder fin didn't actually clip the space station when I attached. I had it just long enough so that it wasn't a problem, but I do have to watch that in the future. Once we're done with this, we're going to detach and use the RCS to thrust away. Close the cargo bay. and get set up for landing. And yeah, this is definitely going to be my new standard procedure for landing. I'm going to be coming in over the runway and turning around to face it. I had a couple problems with the landing gear though, so I had to replace those. This landing attempt took me like 3 or 4 different tries because the landing gear kept collapsing. We really need some heavy-duty landing gear in the game because this just doesn't cut it. And touchdown. Apply the brakes and hope it doesn't fall apart. Get ready for the next launch. And I think this is the Space Shuttle Orion, and it's going to be bringing up yet another part to the space station. And liftoff. SRB sub, and we should be good for orbit. And these are the 2 docking nodes that are going to be going on the ends of the 2 arms on the top, and they're going to be helping me attach some other stuff to it. And I think I'm going to be adding some science labs and a couple of the orbital science parts. Can't remember which mod that is. I think it's like D-Magic Orbital Science or something like that. I'm going to attach to this at a weird angle because I just gotta do it. I'm going to bring this in nice and slow. And once I'm docked, I'm going to detach from that one. And I'm going to move away a couple of meters. Then I'm going to stop. I'm going to use the docking alignment to tell me how fast I'm moving away from it. And then we get zeroed out. And I'm just going to rotate the station around. That way I don't have to like fly around and do all these weird maneuvers. And I'm going to thrust back towards it and get set up for docking. But after docking, I realize that looking straight on from the side over here, they are not straight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to detach, and I'm going to eyeball it, and straighten out the ship like that. Set that as the target. And I'm going to bring it back in with the RCS, and I'm going to eyeball it at the last second and try to keep the angles right, so that the solar panels are basically pointing the same direction and kind of like even with each other. There we go, and we're docked. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to detach and get set up for landing. Bring it in over the runway and start the turn back. End up on base. And then once I get close enough, I'm going to start the turn to final. use the ohms engines. So I'm slowing down a little bit too much. And there we go. Apply the brakes. And get set up for the next launch. This is going to be my first night launch. And I'm going to be sending up some more parts to the station. I think this is the solar panels. And liftoff. It seems to be like the lighter the launch, the wobblier it gets. It doesn't... I don't know. And once I'm in orbit, I get to open the cargo bay and deploy the solar panels. But I'm going to do this one at a time, just so that I don't have to deal with a bunch of stuff floating around in space. And if I knock one, it's going to end up all over the place. And I got, too much of a hassle. I'm just going to do one at a time. So we get this set up and bring it in nice and slow. It's a little bit off center because I was controlling it from the cockpit instead of the docking node. There we go. And once that's attached, I'm going to bring it around over here and attach to this side. Bring this in nice and slow at 0.26 meters per second. There we go. Once I get that attached, I'm going to detach from here. Use the RCS to back away to a safe distance. Set that as the target so I can measure the relative velocity. Once I get far enough away, I'm going to flip around north and south, just so it's easier to orient everything. And I'm going to detach from the cargo and bring it out of the bay nice and slow. And if you'll notice, I did have to remove a bunch of the science experiments so I can get the stuff to fit in there, and I had to redo the cargo node to make it a double to fit two of them in there. So I had to make some modifications in order just to launch this thing. The cargo bay's kind of blocking it a little bit. There we go. And try to set this up. Bring it in nice and slow at about 0.2. Actually, it's about 0.13 right now. Turn off the SAS and it connects right away. And I'm going to set it up to attach to the other one. But I'm going to flip the other way so that I make sure that I don't smack into the other one as I'm coming in with the back of the shuttle. Kind of looked like it was going to hit there for a minute, but it was still a ways away, so that was good. Just get this set up nice and straight. I'm almost on target, at least centered. And bring it in nice and slow at 0.26. And the magnetic force should take over right about now. And there we go. Now the station is more or less complete. The only thing I have left to do is to send up the rocket that contains the orange tank that's going to be going on the top of it. That's going to be holding the fuel for all this, the ships that dock with the station. Close the cargo bay and get set up for landing. first thing I'm going to open all the solar panels so they become useful. I'm going to time warp over into the sun just to see what it looks like. And it's time to come in for a landing. I'm a little bit fast on this one, so I had to turn in against the wind and kind of do that. But I decided after having a couple of problems with the landing gear that I was not going to land on the runway for this one. But what I was going to do was come in over the Space Center like this and pop all of the emergency chutes that I have on it. Deploy the gear at the last second and somehow end up on the tires. This is by far one of the biggest rockets that I've ever launched. And this is going to be heading up to add the orange tank. That fairing at the top of it has an orange tank inside, believe it or not. This thing is gigantic. The first stage alone is easily a little bit bigger than the space shuttle that I just launched. It's crazy huge. And it's got a metric ass ton of parachutes on it to recover the stage once it finally does detach. Now, I can't remember if it actually worked or not, but we get stage separation and fairing deploy. And once I get in close to the station, I'm going to zero out the velocity and get it set up for docking. I'm going to cut out a bunch of the maneuvers to save some time. It's already a pretty long video. And I'm just going to bring this in nice and slow. It's a bit wobbly, but what else would you expect with having a giant orange tank on the front of it? And there we go. The station is finally complete. More or less. I'll probably make some additions later, but for now, that's pretty much exactly how I wanted to build it. And I think that's going to be it for this one. I'm going to send this back down into the atmosphere for stage recovery to give me my money back for it. And hopefully next time I will have a bunch of spaceplane videos for you. I'll show that this is the spaceplane that I designed. And I will see you later.